Hello everyone, I'm Brewery, and welcome back to the complete history of Goodgame Empire. This is a series on my channel in which we've discussed each year in the game's history, beginning with Empire's beta release in August of 2011. This time, we'll be talking about 2024, which, depending on when you're watching this video, may happen to be the present year. If you haven't seen this series before, that's absolutely not a problem. I'll be aiming this video in particular at lapsed players who might be considering checking out Empire once again. So, what's Empire currently like to play? Well, the fundamentals of the game are as they've always been. Half of the game is economy management and castle building, while the other half is PvP and interacting with the events. After what I would characterize as a couple of very slow years post-pandemic, Goodgame Studios has actually been rather busy in 2024. The game has received a lot of updates that have made certain pieces of old content, like the Blake Coast, the Battle for Barremond, and the Storm Islands, relevant again, while introducing a few fresh changes. Some of the changes Goodgame Studios has made this year have been fairly responsive to player feedback. Recruitment speed has been increased, some quality of life changes have arrived, and, most recently, Goodgame Studios has reduced the cost of mead research at the Hall of Legends, making it slightly easier to get back into the game, or to catch up. Those are the positives, but of course, there are some negatives. Monetization is not in a good place, if I'm honest, particularly for those of us who played Empire back in the day and remember what the game was like without mystery boxes or the Wheel of Unimaginable Affluence. You can expect to see packages priced up to around $900 in the shop. I'll say that again in case that caught anybody off guard. $900. While only a handful of players end up buying these most expensive packages, I recently uncovered some hard data about how much the average paying player spends on the game, and it's a not insignificant sum. We'll talk about that again a bit later in the video. For players who are willing to pay to progress, or perhaps even enjoy a bit of chance-based monetization, Empire, I think, has the potential to be a fun experience. If you're like me, though, and monetization has been a big issue for you regarding Empire in the past, unfortunately, that hasn't gone away, and you might conclude that Empire's monetization renders any other recent changes, however positive, effectively meaningless. Another drawback about the present state of the game is that it can be quite complicated. This is not the Goodgame Empire of 2012, where the basic objective was leveling up and everything in the game was quite accessible. Nowadays, there are always several different events in Empire running concurrently, competing for your attention. And for every feature that has been updated recently, there are a dozen more that haven't. For new players, or even for returning players, it might not be immediately obvious what upgrades or events you should pursue first, or what premium packages you should buy. What's more, Goodgame Studios seemingly adds 3 or 4 new currencies with every new feature, appearing to almost take pride in how complex Empire's newest systems can be. Empire is a strategy game, so complexity isn't necessarily a bad thing. Superfluous currencies, however, don't necessarily mean a greater range of strategic choice. I recommend for anyone returning to the game that they check out the game's Discord, Community Hub Wiki, or YouTube content for guidance. Alright, with that introduction in place, let me tell you about the new features that have been added this year. In January, Goodgame Studios added new levels to the Brewery, with the new maximum now being 30. The Brewery, of course, is the building where players can convert food to mead, which feeds a more powerful tier of troops, added in 2020. A higher level brewery is more efficient, so the effect of the update was to increase the size of players' armies. Attacks comprised of 30,000 troops are now regular in the game, as are castles with 500,000 or more defenders. And that right there can give you an impression of how quickly a player who hasn't been busy unlocking all of the mead stuff can fall behind. In March, Goodgame Studios unveiled the Imperial Patronage. Goodgame Studios teased the Imperial Patronage as being a properly new event, the first since Beyond the Horizon had been introduced in 2019. As a result, when the Imperial Patronage finally appeared in the game, I think players were mildly surprised that it was essentially an updated version of the Colossus. In the event, players donate currencies to build a decoration, actually up to 2 decorations, that they will then receive at the end of the event. There are three differences between the Imperial Patronage and the traditional Colossus. First, rather than donating basic resources, players have to donate excess currencies, like construction and upgrade tokens, skeets, or event currencies, like con medals and tablets. Some currencies count for significantly more Imperial Patronage points than others. There's also a premium currency that exists specifically for this event. I'm talking about Imperial Patronage tokens, which can be bought for rubies at the Master Blacksmith. A second difference is that the Imperial Patronage has two tracks, normal and premium, meaning players can actually get 2 decorations per each iteration of the event. The premium track is technically accessible to unpaying players, but following some balancing changes by Goodgame Studios, it has become a lot more expensive and is probably not worth it. A third difference is that the decorations players receive from the Imperial Patronage are effect decorations, meaning that they provide bonuses beyond merely public order. More specifically, the Imperial Patronage decorations increase offensive ranged, melee, and courtyard combat strength. I think that the reception of the Imperial Patronage has been pretty mixed. On the one hand, it was the first widely accessible way for unpaying players to get effect decorations. On the other, though the Imperial Patronage is technically an event, it's not something that the player is likely to spend more than a few minutes interacting with. There's not a lot of gameplay in simply donating currencies. And, as I mentioned, Goodgame Studios' recent balancing changes have made the premium track less accessible to free-to-play users. Around Easter, Goodgame Studios launched a new premium offer with something called the Exalted Easter Park. This $55 20x10 decoration conveys 33,600 public order, as well as significant production bonuses to food, mead, and honey. There was a package that included 8 of them in the shop for a whopping $880, although, as myself and some other YouTubers pointed out, the smaller packages actually had significantly better value. In April, Goodgame Studios fixed a bug that it said was causing players to loot more resources than expected from NPCs. Apparently, the commander bonus to resources looted was being counted twice. Most players missed the announcement, but they certainly noticed that their resources looted had gone down. I can tell you that this bug fix of something that had been present in the game for probably over a decade felt like a needless and counterproductive change, and players complained. Goodgame Studios has since buffed the Marauder to partially make up for the difference. Of course, you have to make sure that you have the Marauder hired in the King's Market. Also in April, Goodgame Studios announced that the big thrust for 2024 would be a series of updates that it referred to as a new era of might and mind. What does that mean in plain English? Well, Goodgame Studios has introduced a new tier of troops, beef-consuming troops, as well as the buildings, currencies, and crafting loops players will need to unlock those troops. The updates have been released in stages. In April, for example, Goodgame Studios added Imperial Ducats, Dragon Scale Tiles, and Plaster, which are the currencies needed to initiate research at the Hall of Legends and to ultimately construct the new buildings. April also saw the introduction of the Dragon Horde, which allows the player to transform construction and upgrade tokens into the Dragon Scale Tiles. There was also new levels for the Keep, the Tavern, and the Research Tower, with new research to increase the efficiency of the Dragon Horde. Finally, the rewards for the Battle of Barremond and the Kingdoms League were updated to include Imperial Ducats. All in all then, April's update focused on the basic currencies needed to unlock and construct the new buildings. In May, Empire got some of the new buildings. Goodgame Studios added the Reinforced Vault, which increases the defensive courtyard unit limit, and equipment and gem storage, and made the refinery and toolsmith buildable in all kingdoms. Then, in July, with the third Might and Mind update, Goodgame Studios added the Dragon Breath Forge and the Cattle Farm, as well as new levels to 3 existing buildings, the refinery, the storehouse, and the barracks. So let me walk you through the process of recruiting the new units. As we do this, keep in mind that to unlock each new building, or new levels for existing buildings, the player will need to complete slow and expensive research at the Hall of Legends. After unlocking the new buildings, the player will then have to spend difficult-to-obtain resources like dragon scale tiles and plaster, to build them, and the new buildings, of course, have long construction times, although that can be completed with time skips. And, as we're about to see, having beef units effectively requires the player to have all of the new buildings unlocked. A level 20 barracks by itself doesn't get you anywhere if you can't store beef to feed the units that you'd like to recruit. Fully unlocking the whole system is going to take the average player years. As far as I know, not even the biggest spenders on the United States server have beef units yet. Okay, with that said, here's my best shot at explaining the new recruitment system. First, players will need to take their iron ore and glass and transform them at the level 5 refinery into steel and dragon glass. At the same time, players can create dragon charms via a crafting loop at the dragon hoard. Steel, dragon glass, and dragon charms are all needed at the dragon breath forge to create the recruitment currencies. These currencies, including twin flame axes and dragon scale armor, are made to look like the weapons and armor your new units will use. Once the player has these recruitment currencies and has unlocked the upgrades to his barracks at the Hall of Legends and has actually constructed those upgrades, he can begin to think about recruiting the new units. But before he can feed those new units, he'll need beef in his castle, and that will require him to unlock and construct a level 9 storehouse. And actually producing beef will require him to unlock and construct cattle farms. Once you have all of that in place, well, congratulations, you will have unlocked beef units. In the fourth Might and Mind update, Goodgame Studios added 3 new levels to the encampment, 2 new levels to the flour mill, the barrel workshop, and the honey gardens, and a new building called the Imperial Council Hall, which conveys a speed boost to recruitment and tool production. Of course, there was corresponding new Hall of Legends research, including research that the player will have to progress through before he can even start research on some of the things we've already been talking about. Accordingly, the effect of this latest update was to increase the time it will take to get through the whole system. There were also 20 more purchasable attack presets. Alright, hopefully all of that made sense. Again, the basic idea here is that there are powerful new units, but that players will need to unlock and construct new buildings in order to unlock and conduct new crafting loops before they can access those new troops. It's a complicated process that is going to take some time. I think the community's reception to these new features has been mixed. On the one hand, I don't think a new tier of buildings and troops, effectively a repeat of the meat update, was what any players were asking for. Additionally, as I've already emphasized, progression promises to be slow. And it's not clear why progression has to be so slow, from a game design perspective. Okay, you probably don't want players unlocking everything on day 1, because then it wouldn't be much of an achievement. Obtaining Imperial Ducats, which, as a reminder, are the primary currency for unlocking the new features at the Hall of Legends, will require the player to participate in Empire's standard events. And to an extent, that's a good thing. But it's hard to look past the obvious, which is that Goodgame Studios is also selling Imperial Ducats, dragon scale tiles, and plaster through mystery boxes, which can be purchased in the Rubies tab at the Master Blacksmith. So, your choice as a player is either to grind through the same decade-old events that you've played 1,000 times already, or to pony up and unlock the new stuff that much quicker. That is how Goodgame Studios is monetizing this update. Given all of these new beef features, Goodgame Studios has had to make progressing through the meat content a little quicker. A small number of the new mystery boxes are available for a pittance of rubies, only 150 each, at the Master Blacksmith. Those are a must-buy for anyone trying to make any kind of progression in the game. And, in response to player feedback, Goodgame Studios is making the mead research quicker and cheaper. This is actually the most recent update to be announced, and, as of the recording of this narration, we haven't seen it in-game yet. But Goodgame Studios is reducing the unlock times of Hall of Legends Tier 6 and Tier 7 by 24 and 28%, respectively, and the skeet costs by 35 and 41%, respectively. And not everything has been cut by the same amount. Unlocking the mead buildings and low-level mead units and tools will actually be even quicker than the percentages make it seem. What hasn't changed is the overall unlock time for mead units and tools from level 1 to 10. However, players can now progress further down the research tree after having unlocked only the first level of troops and tools. This may seem a little modest. After all, Goodgame Studios hasn't done what many players were asking, which was to allow players to use time skips at the Hall of Legends. However, for all of the criticisms of the Beef era, I can see Goodgame Studios' vision. Having players make the weapons and armor for their new troops is a neat way of connecting Empire's economy to its military features, and for a game like Empire to receive such a significant update in its 13th year of existence is remarkable. While all of the new Beef stuff has been coming out, Goodgame Studios has also been revisiting some old events. Goodgame Studios has buffed the rewards associated with the Blade Coast and the Storm Islands, meaning they are once again worth playing. The Storm Islands in particular is now a great way to get coins. Luna's trade boat sells them in packages of 2, 5, 7.5, and 11 million, all for just a handful of aquamarine. I mentioned a few minutes ago that the battle for Barramond is also relevant again. As a result, most of what players have been doing in the game recently, while they wait to unlock the Beef stuff, has been these 3 events, and that's a good thing, since they seem to be player favorites. Honestly, I think players have been more excited about the old events than any of the new Might and Mind stuff. The very latest update, as of the recording of this video, has introduced the Fatal Flora Garden. This is both a decoration and a district that players can place other decorations into. The decorations that go into it are themed after dangerous plants. Players can acquire Fatal Flora Gardens and the special currency needed to upgrade them through the Master Blacksmith. Of course, if you want more of that special upgrade currency, you can visit the payment shop. The new decoration provides a huge boost to might points. So, where do we go from here? And is Goodgame Empire still worth playing in 2024? Well, the game's next few updates have already been teased. As I mentioned, Goodgame Studios appears to be responding to player feedback that the progression through Skeet research at the Hall of Legends is too slow. Another upcoming change is the brand new Food District, which will allow food production buildings to be stored, thus increasing the space in the player's castle for decorations. Additionally, Goodgame Studios recently announced the upcoming removal of the Shadow Mercenary and Shapeshifter events. By the time this video is released, both of those events will have been retired. And that's probably a good thing, since they've been outdated and not worth interacting with for years. The Shapeshifter invasion in particular has never really worked. Hopefully, retiring them is merely the first in a series of steps Goodgame Studios will take to simplify the game. As for whether Empire is currently worth playing, my answer has to be, it depends. Now, I know that some viewers will have already posted "no way" to the comments, and I suppose that would be my default answer. Right now, the worst thing about the game, and the least likely thing to change, is Empire's monetization. I recently did a video in which I went through some financial statements prepared by the Stillfront Group, Goodgame Studios' parent company. In making that video, I discovered that the average paying Empire player spent $70 per month in Q3 2019, which is the last period that we have data for. That was before gambling features were introduced, like the Wheel of Unimaginable Affluence. I'd expect that number has since gone up. So, unless you can invest a ton of time into Empire, and if we're honest, in the present game, no amount of time alone is going to be enough to overcome the pay-to-win advantage, expect to spend at least that amount to stay caught up. And if you're just starting now, or if you're resuming after a period of inactivity, you'll need to spend even more to get caught up. Watch out though, you never know when Goodgame Studios will shorten, say, the Mead research after you've spent money to skip through it. If you're okay with not accessing the cutting-edge new features, consider playing Empire as a low level or under protection mode. Protection mode isn't that bad anymore, ever since Goodgame Studios dramatically reduced the recruitment penalty that comes with it. Of course, you can't PvP, but you might find that PvP is so pay-to-win nowadays that you're really not missing out on much. Playing Empire as a low-level player may be the best way to go if you're trying to re-experience the game as it was a decade ago. The low levels haven't changed much, although the community of players at those levels is much smaller. At least you won't be competing in events directly against the game's top spenders. Again, Whether you should come back at all probably hinges entirely on how comfortable you are with the type of monetization I've described in this video. If you are, then great. If not, honestly, I'd recommend skipping it for now, but perhaps Good Game Studios' recent updates are enough to warrant continuing to keep an eye on Empire. A great way to do that, of course, is to subscribe to my channel. Well, that's going to be all for today's video. I do have a very short parting message for players who might have watched other episodes from this Complete History of Empire series here on my channel, which has somehow ended up at over 4 hours long. And that message is, stay tuned. This isn't actually quite the end. I'll have a short epilogue episode coming out very soon, in which I'll talk about some of the trends I think we've observed over Empire's many years. I'll also give you my bottom line opinion on what to take away from what has been a remarkable run from a remarkable game. So, this is not quite goodbye. With that, I'll see you next time.